Hello everybody and welcome to this tutorial. Today I will be talking about our working environment. I will show you how you can set it up. So first off, we need to install VirtualBox. Now it doesn't matter if you're running Mac OS X, Linux, or Windows, you will still need to do this for several reasons really. First of all, we're going to be doing a lot of stuff and we're going to be doing it as root. So we are always facing the prospect that we might break something, that we might mess something up. And it's just better to have that virtual machine because even if you do mess something up and even if you don't know how to fix it, it doesn't really matter. It is only a virtual machine. You don't really have any data of importance on it. However, if you mess something up on your main machine, that can be problematic. If you're forced to reinstall it or something of a kind, then you need to back all your data up. You need to figure out where everything is, etc. Or you can try fixing the problem, and depending on what that is, it could consume a large amount of your time. So just take my advice for it and go ahead and install VirtualBox. It's not that complicated. It's pretty simple. I'll show you how to do it in a minute. There's another reason why we're installing a virtual machine, and that is safety. We're going to be downloading a lot of stuff from the net, and even though I will be using sites that I consider to be safe and that a lot of other people consider to be safe, it is always good to have that extra layer of protection. So even if something happens on your virtual machine, even if it gets compromised or something of a kind, it's fine. It's a virtual machine. No problems there. There's nothing of importance there. Your private information is not there. Your credit card is not there. There is literally nothing there aside from the tools that you are using that can be obtained from the internet anyway. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and see how VirtualBox is installed. Now there are two ways of doing this. One is preferable over the other. So the first method is a lot simpler. So you can just go ahead, open up your favorite browser. Mine is Firefox. Use your favorite search engine. Type in VirtualBox. VirtualBox. Press enter, and there you go. Straight off the bat, you have official site VirtualBox. Just gonna go ahead and open it. In the left corner, it says about screenshots. There's a download of documentation here. For the time being, there really isn't any need to go over it. Rather instead, just click downloads. Excellent. So here you have a list of host machines. You have VirtualBox for Windows host, for OS X host, for Linux host, Solaris hosts. Actually, for Solaris, you can just use it from the repositories immediately. But for the time being, we cannot use the repositories. We need to configure them in Linux, and repositories in Linux are places from where you pull your software for your Linux distro. Anyway, we will need VirtualBox for Linux hosts. I have already downloaded it in order to save time in this tutorial, but you just click on it and then it pops. So you have these guys are amazing. They have this virtual machine manager set up for multiple Linux distributions. So you have Ubuntu, you have Debian. Not sure why they actually separated Ubuntu and Debian, but it doesn't really matter since Ubuntu is based on Debian. Pretty much everything that works in Debian will work on Ubuntu as well. You have OpenSUSE. Wow, we even have the enterprise. But for the time being, I'm interested in Fedora. And even though Fedora 21 came out and it says here Fedora 18, that's perfectly fine. It's going to run no problems. Anyway, right next to it, you have i386 and AMD 64. What these markations mean? Well, basically, they're just references to 32-bit and 64-bit architectures. If you do not know what your machine is, whether it's 32-bit or 64-bit, well, no problems there. Just go ahead and open up your terminal, type in uname space -a, press enter. You don't need to be root to do this. You can do this as pretty much any user, and you get a listing of information here. So you have Linux platform, local host, that's the domain. You have the version of the kernel and Fedora distribution as well. It's number 20. And then you have the architecture. So it's x86 underline 64. There we go, 64-bit architecture. Fantastic. Now that we have established that, you can actually go ahead and click on it. If you're using a 32-bit one, just click on the 32-bit one. The procedure is absolutely the same. There are literally no differences. It gives me an option to save a file, so just click Save and then click OK. That will download the file for you in the default downloads folder, unless you've configured it in a different fashion. I'm just going to go ahead and cancel it because, as I said, I've downloaded it previously in order to save some time in this tutorial. Just cancel. Go back to your terminal. Now clear the screen. You will need to be root in order to do this, so just type in su, press enter, and type in your password. And of course I got my password wrong. I'm quite famous for doing this. I don't know why, but It's fine when I forget my passwords. When I forget my encryption keys, that can be a bit of a problem. Anyway, there is a tool for managing RPM packets. As this is a Red Hat distro, all the packets, software packets for it have an extension .rpm. Here, let me just go ahead and show this to you. I'm going to go ahead and create a bit of a bigger zoom in so you can all see what I am doing here. Now, I am currently using the terminal, and I will give more detailed explanations. I will instruct you on how to use it. I will explain pretty much all the commands that we will be using in great detail, but for the time being, just tune in and follow through. So there's a command ls, and then I want to go to the folder downloads. So, Chronic, that's me, that's the username, downloads, and oops, VirtualBox, there we go. Press enter. I'm just gonna go ahead and clear the screen one more time. There we go. Got exactly the same thing, but a bit better looking. Anyway, you see this extension that I have marked. It says .rpm. Now, .rpm represents a type of packet that, as stated previously, that is meant specifically for certain Linux distributions, such as Red Hat, Fedora, CentOS, and a few others. What you can do is use your default RPM software. So just type in RPM space -i. -i argument is for install, and then specify the path to your packet, to your package. So home, Chronic, downloads, VirtualBox, and press enter from here. Now again, this process is automated. There isn't much that you need to do here. Maybe press yes and that's it along the way. But in any case, this is not the method that you should be using. This is the method that I'm showing that you can use, but I wouldn't advise, as if you do install it like this, it tends to break with newer updates, so it can be a bit problematic. I'll show you another method in the next tutorial where you can actually use yum, which is the default packet manager, in order to install this packet and then update it accordingly. In any case, I bid you farewell, and I'll see you in the next tutorial where I'll pick this up. Hello everybody, and welcome to this tutorial. Today I will be talking about some of the prerequisites that you will require if you want to follow this course through. One of the first things that you need to be familiarized with is your working environment. So for myself, I have chosen to use two Linux distros. One will be Fedora 20, which is the operating system that I'm using anyway, and also I will install a virtual machine. That virtual machine will be Kali Linux. Basically, it is a Linux distro which contains a great deal of pen testing tools, so it's very useful in that sense. Don't worry about it. I will explain this process in great detail, how you can set the virtual machine up, how you can install it, and so on and so forth. However, should you be using Windows, that is definitely not advisable for this kind of activity. Primarily because since I'm doing this in an environment that I own, it doesn't really matter to me if I'm anonymous or not, but in the real world, all the pen testing that is done in the real world, you're always trying to anonymize yourself. You're trying to be as invisible as possible, as much as possible. You do not want them to figure out where the attack is coming from or anything of a kind. You want to wipe your trail or something of a kind, and Windows is really not good for those sort of things. So there, your anonymity level will be very low, and most of the tools that we're going to be using, they are native to the Linux environment. They were made for Linux. So some of them might not work under Windows. I have not tested them all out, but most of them will. So you can still use Windows if you like, because you're not hiding from anyone. But since I'm recreating the real life scenario here, I do need to actually use proxies, VPNs, and so on and so forth, just to show you how it is done, how you can do it. Also, for all the Mac users out there, if you're using Mac OS X, it doesn't really matter which version. Most of the stuff should work like no problems. The procedures are fairly simpler. The command line tools are the same. How you install them differs, but pretty much you will be able to run the same commands as me. So there shouldn't be any problems there. Your anonymity level with Mac OS X should be relatively good, but still on Linux you have the greatest anonymity, and you are rather safe in that sense. Other than that, you will also require working internet connection. And even though all of these attacks that we're going to do today, well, most of them, they work much, much better if you have an extremely fast internet connection. But some of these attacks are actually conducted from public Wi-Fi's, in real life anyway. We'll just pretend I will set up a wireless access point in my house and load it so that it's similar to the public Wi-Fi, which is very slow. Some of these attacks, as I said, they go over public Wi-Fi's, and as we all know, and as we've all painfully learned, public Wi-Fi's are not the fastest internet connections out there. So primarily because you have a lot of people that are connected to them, and there's a lot of data going through. They're not the safest networks out there either. But as I said, if you want to absolutely anonymize yourself, and that is what some people do, they actually go out and hook up to a public Wi-Fi, or they go to a bar or something of a kind and conduct their attacks from there. Now, before they do that, they need to figure out whether the bandwidth of that Wi-Fi can sustain their attack. So they need to minimize it, they need to downsize it, and that is how they become absolutely anonymous. Anyway, the third thing that you will absolutely need, so these three things, these are the basic requirements. Everything else we'll pick up on the way. I will show you how to do it, no problems there. But these three things, I can't really show you how to, I mean, I can, but it's a bit pointless how to go to your ISP and hook it up to the internet and hook your telephone to the internet or something of a kind. But in any case, the third prerequisite is a working wireless card. And when I say working wireless card, most of the devices have them. Pretty much all laptops from 2005 or from 2008 were standardized with wireless cards. If you're using a desktop machine that doesn't have a wireless card, you should, but it's not. You don't need to. But however, if you want, you won't be able to follow through a portion of this tutorial. Then you should go out and buy a USB wireless card or something of a kind. They're pretty cheap. I don't know, 10, 15 bucks. So they're not that expensive, and you can get them pretty much anywhere. Anyway, as I was saying, what I mean by a functional wireless network card is that it is recognized by your operating system. So if you are using a Linux distro like I am, you need to make sure that that the kernel of this Linux distro actually has the necessary drivers for the wireless card that you are using at the moment. If you're probably using Atheros or Broadcom, Atheros should be fine. Pretty much Linux kernel support a large amount of Atheros devices, if not all of them, in terms of network cards, so that should be fine. There were some problems with Broadcom, but that's as far as I'm informed, that has been solved, so no big deal there. If you're uncertain how to check whether your wireless card functions under your Linux distro, well, just try connecting to a Wi-Fi. If you can connect to a Wi-Fi access point, if you can connect, obviously it works. If you can't, it doesn't work. But don't just hop to a conclusion that it doesn't work. Maybe it's just turned off or something like that. But do not worry, I will show this in greater detail in the follow-up tutorials where we actually go over the installation process and all of that. Now there are a couple more things which we need to go over before we head over and start the installation. I would just like to go over some basic some basic terminology that you will need in order to be able to follow this course, in order for you to be able to follow the future tutorials. In any case, I bid you farewell, and I thank you for watching.